Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of No Reserve, Hagerty's podcast about the enthusiast car market. Now, we're here to help you make sense of the market, whether you're buying, selling, or just watching. Now, this week, it's all about the Monterey Classic car auctions that happened last week, and they were crazy. There was $1 million classics sold like Camrys on the local used car lot. Now, our highlights include a $30 million Ferrari race car. There was also another Ferrari. This one, just a hulk of twisted junk, and it's sold for nearly $2 million. It's nuts. But if those sound crazy, there were a lot of bargains too, and we're bringing them to you. I'm Larry Webster, editor of Hagerty Media, and I'm joined by Dave Kinney, the publisher of the Hagerty Price Guide. Between the two of us, we've got decades of experience buying, selling, and driving the cars we love. Plus, we just don't guess at the values. We're backed up by the data of the Hagerty valuation tools. All right, let's get into it. Okay, Dave, it's just a few days since the craziness that is in Monterey Car Week and all the auctions, which are our purview. I'm slowly drying out. How are you feeling this morning?
Totally sober as a judge, man. I'm ready to go. Hey, do we have that much to talk about? I mean, kind of really nothing happened, did there? I mean, it's just kind of boring all the time, right?
It was such an eventful week in terms of there on that Monterey Peninsula, in terms of auctions, big results, new car reveals. And you were part of the team on insider.hagerty.com that really just kind of ran a blog, an ongoing live blog all weekend. And it was super interesting to hear the commentary. And you can go and see it on insider.hagerty.com. But, one of the things that I think was a theme over that entire coverage was that this year was not awesome, not terrible, kind of a middling year. Would you say that's a correct characterization?
I talked to one of the principals of an auction company, and I didn't, interview him, but he said, when I asked him, I said, how are things? He said, good. He said, the word is good. Yeah. And I said, you're absolutely right. I started thinking about it. It wasn't an excellent year because last year was an excellent year, but it certainly wasn't a bad year. So I'm going to go with that. It's kind of like everything's good. We be good. I mean, thumbs up type of good. And I'm fine with that. And, it's really nice for the marketplace because you do not want it expanding all the time. You don't want it to collapse. That's for damn sure. But we're nowhere near that.
Well, okay. So there was over 1,200 cars sold over this time period. And as you've pointed out many times, it's a tiny fraction of the entire classic car market. However, somewhere over 200 cars were sold for over $1 million. So this is a very affluent crowd. And the feeling and emotions around the market and money and how they feel, this group feels, it's really important. So what you're saying is, especially in the terms when everybody's talking about recession, interest rates are on the rise, these folks are still feeling comfortable enough to spend a lot of money on their toys. Yeah?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Not just the toys, the accessories that go with them. I mean, this Monterey week, used to be a couple of days. Now it's over a week where everybody's around. The amount of cars, the amount of, people here, I don't think it's ever been this big. It's that, it's huge and it seems to be growing. Just crazy stuff going on.
Yeah. I mean, I think you're right. The traffic was like... I mean, I'd never seen it that bad. I mean, I've been going to that this week for about 6 years. So usually about Friday it picks up and it becomes oppressive, but it was starting there by Wednesday. I mean, it was the interest and the fun of it was just off the charts. I really, my favorite part are the historic races that happen at Laguna. I don't know if you got over there. I mean, they had some incredible cars there, from all these old F1 cars to, Group C stuff. Did you get there?
No, I wasn't able to get there. I had to, cover auctions. And it's been a couple of years since I've been at Laguna. I think I've been coming here about 15, 20 years, something like that, Larry. Yeah. And, every year gets a little bit more crowded. I guess kind of the good news is that if you're a Porsche guy, you might go to 3 Porsche events. If you're a Ferrari guy, you might go to 4 Italian car and Ferrari events. All that. There really is something for everybody to do. And I got to tell you, the one thing that's the coolest thing for me to reinforce everything we've been talking about since we started this podcast, how many kids did you see with actual cameras around their neck? Forget the iPhone. These kids were out taking photos for their blog and for their Instagram and whatever. But I guarantee you I saw over 1,000 people with a camera around their neck. There's no place else I can think of where you're going to find the people who've invested that much in their love of cars. It might be granddad's camera, it might be dad's camera, but they're out there filming. I mean, they're out there using digital and film.
Dave, you're so perceptive. I saw that. I didn't think to like call it out, but yes, I went to this hotel and it had a courtyard where the valet was, and this place was insane. There were 4 Bugattis in this little area, plus an Aston Martin Valkyrie, and there was a whole crowd taking photos of these things. And I don't know how this happens, but I don't think they ever moved. So I'm like, well, somebody like just had them delivered there and parked, and that was the end of it. But it was kind of amazing. And yeah, I did see all the people at street corners, and to your point, something for everybody. I think you went there too. There was the Concours de Lemons on Saturday morning. Did you go to that?
I did not go this year. I had a competing event, but always a lot of fun, always craziness. I've seen, maybe 400 photos from there, and anybody should check that out as well. It's the Concours de Lemons. It's the best of the fun shows as far as I'm concerned, completely free. Yeah. And, it is the egalitarian part of Pebble Beach.
We'll move on, but I saw this guy. He had a Nissan Leaf. Did you hear about this thing?
No, I did not.
I mean, I could have hugged this guy.
Wait a minute. I did hear. I remember it now.
Guy has a Nissan Leaf, and he wants to build his own plug-in hybrid. So he takes a Nissan Leaf, which is front-wheel drive. It's electric only. It's got a battery pack. It was cheap as stink because the battery had eroded, and it was only going 30 miles on a charge. So then he buys it, and he takes a Kawasaki motorcycle powertrain and gas tank and puts it in the trunk to drive the rear wheels. It was amazing. He's like, yeah, it's a plug-in hybrid. I was like, is it fast? He's like, yeah, hell yeah, it's fast. Super cool.
Somebody's going to LS swap a Leaf here one day, and we are going to go fly out to wherever they are and give them an award, right?
Yeah, totally. But please, go to insider.hagerty.com. You can get a lot of in-depth stuff, and you can really get a blow-by-blow the whole week, which is really, really fun. So kudos to the guys who put it on. But Dave, one of the biggest surprises, shockingly, in a place where it's known for Bugattis, Ferraris, exotics, of the week was a Mustang, right? Tell us about it.
Yeah, the GTD. Both you and I got invites to go see this, and it was at one of these hotels with the fancy courtyards. And Bill Ford was there, Jim Farley was there, a whole bunch of very, very high-hitting people were there to introduce the GTD Mustang, and it is aimed squarely at a car that's first letter starts with P. Don't you agree?
Yeah, it's a brand new Mustang. It's the most high performance Mustang ever built. To back up, they are going to build a GT3 racing version of the Mustang that will compete with Porsche 911s, Ferraris, the Corvette at endurance races like Le Mans. And they're saying this is the street version and heavily, heavily modified. It looks really fantastic, but a huge stretch for a Mustang, don't you think?
Yeah. They started out close to $3,000. This one is $300,000. And it's very much a special build. Very, very high tech. They are talking about 7-minute Nuremberg time, which is just unbelievable. But I think they're going to do it. I mean, they're not playing around with this one. This one's they've planted the flag. I think they're gonna build it and do it all the way. Don't you?
Absolutely. They're using this company called Multimatic, and Multimatic has a guy at the top named Larry Holt, and he's like a mad scientist. And this car is going to have somewhere over 800 horsepower. It's supercharged. They moved the transmission to the rear axle like the C7 Corvette to improve the weight distribution. They have these really neat Multimatic spring and damper assemblies with 2 springs, and supposedly it'll have a reasonable ride on the street. When you get to a track, this hydraulic ram compresses that softer spring, lowers the car, and now you just have this kind of racy track spring, which you don't see a lot of mechanical innovations, and there it was, and I thought it was really cool. But
it's really cool stuff.
Yeah, the car looks great. They wouldn't say, I don't know, maybe you heard, nobody would tell me how many they're going to make, and it's at least a year away, so this is really kind of fantasy land. Did you hear what they're going to make?
I heard rumors of 1,000 and 2,000, and of course, Multimatic. For those of you who are saying somebody say it, are the people who built the latest Ford GT as well. So at $300,000, I'm not going to mark this one as a bargain yet, but it could very well be a very attractively priced car if you're shopping a GT3 Porsche or something along those lines.
Well, I think in the supercar realm, there's really a law of diminishing returns because during this week, I finally got behind the wheel of a Z06, the new Corvette Z06. And I purposely took an afternoon and went down Carmel Valley Road, way past all the craziness, so I could sample that car. And it's crazy. I mean, it is crazy fast, Dave. I mean, the thing revs like 8,500 RPM. It wails like a Ferrari, tons of torque, really unflappable chassis. I thought, holy smokes, this Corvette is out of this world. And then I looked at the sticker price in the glove box, $144,000.
It's the best bargain of everything out there. 100%.
But the Corvettes were always like, it's got warts, but it's half the price of this. There are no many warts, and it's still half the price. So that's where this Mustang, I mean, I think where this crowd at Monterey, it just seems like they'll pay whatever for anything, and the more expensive almost makes it more attractive. And that's a really cynical view. Is it too cynical, or do you feel?
No, in some ways, I'm afraid it's very realistic. We live in the real world, Larry, and I think there's some people here who have created their own alternative world. Not that it's horrible, not that it's bad, but it's good to come back to reality once you've been out here for a while, I guess. That's not to say it's all about the rich people. It's all about the rich people's cars. This is all about cars, full stop, because you can play at any level out here.
Well, okay, we can put a bow on that thing. It was badass looking Mustang. It's fantastic that there's so many versions of the Mustang now. They're going all in on Mustang. But as you say, that week, as everybody focuses on the high dollars, but there's some great stories all around. And one you were intimately involved in, and that was the McPherson car that was actually competing on the highest Concours in the world, the Pebble Beach Concours. Give us a sense of what happened there.
All right, 10 years ago at McPherson College in McPherson, Kansas, they decided to build a car for Pebble Beach. It's an audacious goal. They found a 300S that they bought, and in 7 years, they restored the car. Now, keep in mind that in 7 years, in a 4-year college, the people who are finishing the build were in middle school when this car started. So it's been this incredible goal. It's a 10-year plan. It was called the Path to Pebble. And we made it on the Path to Pebble. We made it all the way to the field at Pebble Beach.
Wow.
And we got a second in class, which is just enormous. To think about this, there are restorers who come here for years and years and years and never get a first or second and third.
Yeah.
And so everybody's happy. It was a great experience for everybody. There's photos all over the place, of the McPherson car.
Yep.
I'm on the board of the advisory board of the automotive restoration.
Yeah.
Very, very emotional for all of us. It was a great time. Great time.
Okay. Well, we're going to forgive your bias, obviously, but
I'm letting it out there. Everyone knows. I think absolutely.
For the audience, the Pebble Beach Concours has a section of judging where it has this team of marquee experts that know Mercedes inside and out, and they know how these things were originally built. So when a car like this is judged, and you could have your feelings about something being judged, but they're looking at originality, faithfulness to the original car, but also the craftsmanship that went into the restoration. And so what I think you were getting at is, the most experienced, best restoration experts in the world hope to win some award at Pebble Beach to sort of establish their business. And here these kids showed up and they did it on their first try, right?
Absolutely. It's it's the feel-good story of the week. That's for darn sure.
Well, Dave, thank you for your support and help with that program. Those kids, I went and saw them. They were ecstatic. They were constantly polishing that car. Mm-hmm. And I looked at one. I said, "You're going to wear out the clear coat." And he had this look, and I was like, "Dude, I'm just kidding." I mean, he was that serious about it. He's like, "Yeah, get out of here, old man." So I said, "Okay, fair enough."
Yeah, there was definitely no clear on that car.
And then, so there were a lot of stuff that happened that week. I mean, you were like, I think a celebrity treated you like a celebrity, some woman that talks about cars, right?
Yeah, Larry, you got to get with it. Supercar Blondie. She's got 14 million followers.
Oh, I know. It's amazing.
And I had a nice conversation with her. You better not discount this very nice woman.
Very knowledgeable.
You do so at your own risk. She knows an awful lot about cars and an awful lot about what's out there. And it was fun, meeting her and her husband and talking to them. So I did the celebrity photograph. What can I say? I'm a stalker. I'm a stalker. Okay.
Good for you. Autograph hound. That's fine.
Yeah, that's me.
Well, let's move on. We're going to go to our opening bid section. There's so much to talk about because there's a lot of cars that we talked about 2 weeks ago that were going to be for sale. Now we know what they sold for. The first one was, I think, the headliner of the week, and that's it's a Ferrari 412P. It's a 1967 race car. I mean, Dave, tell us about what happened with this thing when it went across the block.
It opened at $27 million, which is astonishing. Most of the cars, even if they're, $30 million cars, which this car turned out to be, they open at, maybe 10 million or 5 million or something reasonable, something that Larry and I could, just go through the change drawer and pick up and, and have that 5 million bid. So we could at least say we own the car for 20 seconds or something. But the bidding opened at 27. And there was only one other bid, and it was $27.5. So $27,500,000 plus the juice. That's the fee that you have to pay to buy these things. Got the car out for just a little bit more than $30 million, $30,200,000. I say worth every penny.
Bargain of the week.
Yeah, right. Love this car. Not for everyone because not everyone has $30 million last time I checked, but it's a really cool car. I like this car because it's the last of the cars that were designed by car designers and not by wind tunnels exclusively. So this car has a lot of good looks. It's got a face. It's got a body. A lot of the newer cars that are race cars don't have a face. They just have some wings in the front. This car still has it. So I'm happy for it. I don't know who the new buyer is. I'm sure they'll be happy with it too.
I mean, I'm like all choked up over this thing. And this is what's really funny about being out there, because you hear something that somebody in this realm might think about that would never enter your mind. And one of the things I heard about this thing was because it was a 67 and it was sort of an early one of the P cars, it had carburetors, not the later mechanical fuel injection systems. And the reason that was noteworthy was that these carburetors are more tractable. The thing will idle, it'll work under part throttle, versus the fuel injection system, according to this person, which could have been full of it, were more temperamental and really, were designed to operate closer to full throttle most of the time. And therefore, this car was usable, drivable, all that stuff, which made it even more attractive. And it's gorgeous. I mean, I thought 30 million was a bargain. I really did.
Yeah, next time one comes up, why don't we try, we'll split it.
Wait, what I liked what you said is next time I'm going to get like a bidders panel and then I'm going to bid at 5 million and then sweat until somebody outbids me. That sounds kind of fun.
There's a couple people who do that, not necessarily at the $5 million mark, but
they'll
open a $350,000 car with $100,000, and they feel like a big shot because they owned a $300,000 car for a few minutes. I do not encourage that. I do not encourage that. So
I'm going to play Big Papa for an evening one of these days. Okay, so I think when you and I talked about this a couple weeks ago, 30 million was about what everybody expected. I heard from somebody who was in the room that the way it went down was a little bit strange. They said they were going to open the bidding to the phones. The phone rang, the hammer dropped all within like 30 seconds, made it suggest that there was some confusion at the closing of this auction. I don't know if you were there, but it seems like that was unfounded. Was there anything weird?
The only weird thing was that it opened so high and only got one other bid.
Okay.
I mean, I don't, what's weird at auctions is that, the unusual happens all the time. Sometimes cars go really, really fast. Sometimes they go slow. Sometimes they're up there for 20 minutes. It seems it's really more like 4 or 5, but, and it takes a long, long time. I don't know what the deal was on this. 30 million seems like as soon as they reach the $30 million mark, they knew they weren't going to get anything more, so they probably just went ahead and hammered it down. The auction company should know beforehand. With the exception of some wild cards, some people who come in and don't say anything, but they pretty well know who's on the car, so who's a potential bidder. Maybe they had two, maybe they had three, maybe they just had 1.5. Who knows? But the car sold. That's what counts.
Yeah, great car. Oh man. Okay, let's move on. This is another car we talked about a lot a couple weeks ago. It was the 2015 Porsche 918 Spyder, which was sold at the Broad Hour auction, and I think this just it didn't set a record. It didn't do great. It sold for about $2 million, which is about what everybody thinks these are worth, which is really fascinating. Consider it was a $7 million car when it was new nearly 10 years ago. So still strong demand for these cars. These sort of newer supercars are still doing quite well, don't you think?
Yeah. What I loved about this car? It's black instead of silver, because I'm so tired of seeing them in silver. And didn't that sound funny? But I think I've seen the last three were all, one variation of Porsche silver colors. So I like that. It's 15 grand short of 2 million. Believe me, by the time this car gets on a transporter and gets home and somebody pays taxes, it's well over $2 million.
Probably tires. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
They always need new tires.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Nobody sells new tires.
Nobody's going to do one tire on this car, and very, very few people in the world would do 2 tires. It's 4 tires every time. So.
Yeah, and then also at those Broad Arrow auctions, they had, 2 of the, I don't know do you call them late model if they're built after 1980, Dave? Is that late model? What the hell does late model mean?
For some people like you and me, it is, but they're becoming collector cars at 1980 plus. So,
yeah. Well, they had the Ferrari, the 288 Ferrari GTO, and the 95 Ferrari F50, and both still really strong prices. I don't know if you had a chance to look at those cars. They're both red. I mean, it's sort of fascinating to me that the 288 GTO, which is a modification of a 308, which is not the greatest car, it's sold for $3.9 million.
I don't think that staggers me. It's not the modification of the 308. You're damning it with faint praise there. It has the same sort of body. That's about it. I mean, everything else is different. Mm-hmm. $3,910,000. Let's mark that almost $4 million. That's a lot of money for that car. Yeah. I remember it wasn't that many years ago in Arizona when one was selling and it went over $1 million, and then the room went crazy because they hadn't seen anything like this before. Mm-hmm. It's part of the collect the set. The F50, the F40, the 288 GTO, the Enzo, or the LaFerrari. If you're a serious collector, you got to have the entire set. So I think maybe that's part of what drives it. Now that F50 sold for $4,240,000, which is really close to our number 2, maybe 2 minus price in the price guide. Again, it's the collect the set car. People have to have the F40 and the F50. I have a couple clients who have F50s. A couple of them have changed them out to get one with even lower mileage, which drives me crazy. Because
are you kidding? No kidding. That's how they think. Fascinating.
Yeah, they should have one with 50,000 miles or 40,000 miles, but no, they all want them with 2,000 miles or whatever, or less than that. But hey, they can do it, so let them do it.
Well, I mean, in terms of like driving experience, I mean, I have not been behind the wheel of either of these, but the F50, it's carbon tub, V12 with a stick. I mean, that thing's just got to be breathtaking. I think it's got to be one of the. I imagine it's one of the all-time great driving Ferraris ever.
I mean, we use the term race car for the street. It absolutely is. It's this was not a comfort car. The F40 even less so, I guess. But the F40, the F50, nothing about creature comfort, or very, very little about creature comfort. It was all about go fast.
Right, and the 288 GTO, built in 1985 when they were still recovering from unleaded gas and the compression ratios, and motors were making no power. They had to bolt on a couple of turbos, twin turbos. They did intercool it, but that is a very surgy, peaky kind of power delivery, much different than maybe an F50. But they still cost about the same, which I think is really interesting. I guess you're right. You got to have the set.
Exactly.
Okay, good to know. The other car that I think really did break out a little bit was this, again at Broad Arrow, was that NSX Type R, the 1995. That sold for $632,000. That seemed pretty strong for an NSX to me. I don't know where you come in on.
Well, of course, it's a Honda, not an Acura NSX, which is a little bit different.
Sorry. Yep.
Yeah, no, you didn't say that.
Do you feel superior for correcting me now?
No, you didn't say it. I'm not correcting you. I'm telling the public that it's a Honda and not, boy, Mr. Defensive.
I'm insecure, Dave. You know that.
632, and there's a whole bunch of people saying, whoa, wait, I can get an NSX for $100,000. Not the same car. I'm going to take a deeper dive into this. I'm going to try and find out a little bit more about this car and the story behind it, because it is a Type R. And I think the collectors are really starting to get onto those, the Type R's. So, here's the really amazing thing. There were people who said that an NSX, when it came out, they said this is a Ferrari 328 done right.
Yeah.
Now, the NSX, in Acura or Honda form, are proving to be a very, very solid investment for a lot of people. They've gone up, they've gone down, and there's a whole bunch of difference between the Targa tops and the year build and all that sort of stuff. But it's always worth watching the NSXs. I
thought this was a strong price. It's a right-hand drive car.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that doesn't seem to matter. That a car's right-hand drive. If it's special, if it's I've heard that the Type R's, they did an Integra Type R, NSX Type R. This was in the era when Honda engineering was on fire. They just come off the dominant era with McLaren in Formula One. And these were called like the Shelby Mustangs of the era. So they really put on a lot of special stuff, especially this is a first-generation NSX. This was reportedly heavily tuned by Ayrton Senna, which I think helps. And by the way, Dave, NSX, I got a soft spot. It's the only car I've ever bought and sold where I just made a ton of money.
I think there's a lot of people who said that, actually, because all you had to do was hold on for a while, and if you bought them at the right time, they went
I only had to hold on for 6 months. There was one on a corner lot here with 30,000 miles, a 91, a red one, for $30,000. And a friend of mine goes, "Oh my God, don't they know what these are worth?" And so we split it. And then I'm like, well, if it only costs us $15,000 a year, I'm going to enjoy it. So I just drove it. But then I knew what it was worth, so I freaked out. And we put it on, we auctioned it and got 60. So I was like, wow.
That's a nice turn.
Yeah. So soft spot for NSX. But I don't know. They're beautiful cars. They look great. But, for what they cost, there's a lot of better driving cars out there.
Yeah. Well, the good news about this right-hand drive one, the guy can have a second career as a mail delivery guy, and he can do it faster than anybody else. So, always look for the practical, right, Larry?
Yeah. Yep. Okay. One of the things that caught your eye was this 65 Ferrari 500 Superfast Series 2. What's the story here, Dave?
Big fan of the super fast cars. They're the the swoopy cars. Basically, I guess would be the best way to describe them, from Ferrari from the 1960s. This particular car sold at where we have a price here. Yikes! Don't see the price, but it was a good buy. We have a number one at $3,150,000, a number two at $2,650,000. And this car sold for quite a bit less than that. I don't know why. I'm kind of wondering. I'm going to make some phone calls about this car, but it's going to be interesting to find out, because not only that, there was another Ferrari that got out really cheap.
Wait, would you just tell me a little bit about, it's a Pininfarina body, which built most of the bodies back then, but then they made this super fast line. Was that a joke, or what does it mean? Like,
no. First they had the Super America, then the Super Fast. These were the ultimate road going Ferraris of the mid 1960s. They have like you said, a Pininfarina body, but very, very low build numbers on these cars, so that you'll find that some of them have 12 and 14 in the series, stuff like that. And the super fast cars, I think they might be going down in value because some of the Ferrari collectors from that era, they all have what they want, and they're moving into later cars. So we're going to watch that and see what happens.
Is that because you could get the same basic experience and chassis with a different body for less money, so that you're like, well, I get kind of the experience. Doesn't maybe look the same, but
very perceptive on your part, because 332 plus 2, kind of do some of the same stuff, but it's not the same. It's kind of like saying I can buy a I don't know, a Ford Escape, and it's the same as the Lincoln Aviator or whatever the version is. I mean, it's going to be a little more comfortable. This is going to have a lot more cool stuff. I had a friend who had a Superfast, and I love this part. You could reach under the dashboard, which was still accessible, and there was a handle, kind of like a door handle. And when you pulled the handle towards you, the right hand door opened. So here's the deal: you're pulling up at the Casino Monte Carlo. You see your girlfriend on the corner. You know, she looks over. Instead of having to get out and get the car, you can still be a total gentleman by reaching down and pulling this handle, and the right hand door just glides out. Now that's kind of, that's cool bone stuff.
Who's my girlfriend? Who's my girlfriend in this scenario?
That would be Gina Lola Bridget, I'm pretty sure.
I don't know who that is.
Okay, so Anne Margaret? I don't know. I'm thinking 60s.
You just killed it. You had this awesome story going. I was totally with you, and then you blew it at the last minute.
Okay, Supercar Blondie. That's who it is, okay?
She's married, Dave. I mean...
Yeah, okay. All right. Well, yeah, but I mean, you're just giving her a ride from the casino. You don't go thinking that, just being a nice guy.
Okay, but this thing, this car did not sell for as much money as you thought it might. So this is maybe an indicator that there may be some changes going on in the mid-60s Ferrari market. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, a little bit. You can't just say it because of one or two or even five cars, but there might be a little bit of weakness. We're gonna, we drill down on the price guide all the time, so we're gonna make sure that if there is, we'll report it next time out, and we'll wait and see. We don't care if they go up or go down. We just want to be as accurate as possible. So that's that's what we do. We get people pissed off at us when we go up in value. We get people pissed off when we go down in value. Yeah. We get people pissed off when we leave them the same. So it's okay. I'm a big guy. I can take that. I'm Big Papi, right?
Big Papa.
No, Big Papa.
Big Papa. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
And then it's kind of interesting. I was looking at the Mecum site, and there's another Ferrari that you also highlighted because something happened here. They don't show the sold prices on their site, or is it just there's a delay?
No. You haven't signed in and become a member of the Mecum Infonet.
Always another velvet rope. Always.
Yeah, I know. Always another velvet rope.
And I'll always be outside them.
But I can tell you what this sold for because I was smart enough to write it down last night when I was doing all my research here.
Yeah.
It sold for $1,760,000. Now, are you sitting down, pal? Are you ready?
I'm ready. Hit me.
Our number 4 is $2 million.
Whoa, this car looks like a number 2, at least. It looks beautiful.
It is. And our number 2 is $2,550,000. Now, either the value of these have gone down that much, which I very seriously doubt, or somebody got a wild price, because if you can take 1,760 and turn it into 2.5, you're not only smart, you're rich.
Dave, I'm so mad at you. Like, you probably saw this happening in real time, and you didn't pick up the phone and call me. I mean, screw you. You're supposed to help me get into this new rarefied world, and you're just keeping me out. This car is gorgeous. It has that boat tail. Oh, my God.
Oh, I can only think of 1,760,000 reasons why you and I did not buy this car last weekend.
Big Papa's got credit. I know he does.
Credit, you said it. Exactly. But Big Papa's not using his credit right now. Big Papa's trying to pull the cards in a little bit. So,
I mean, this car is. It's really hard to justify any car that's like a 7-figure car, but in sort of this Ferrari Roadster line of the 60s, the tail on this car and
it's gorgeous car.
And the color. Oh my God.
The car before this was the 275 GTS, and then it morphed into the 330. Different engines, but they made a lot of changes. The 275 looks like a grown-up 124 Spider. I hate to say that, but it's true. The 330 went off on a little bit different angle, got a little bit more roundy, and is a very, very good. They're both good-looking cars. I would not turn either one of them down, but
I mean, this is a green car. It's got the V12, and it says it has factory air conditioning, which I imagine doesn't work, but still.
No, it should work. I mean, in a car restored to this level, I would think that, well, actually, I know a previous owner of this car, so I've got a little inside information. The air conditioning did work a couple of years ago because I did speak to the previous owner of the car. He was really mad at himself that he didn't pay attention to this car going through the sale. He would have bought it back for this money. I know that for a fact.
So there are still bargains out there.
Yeah, and speaking of bargains,
okay, let's just say I'm not going to forgive you for not calling me when this was happening. I would have. We could have scraped the money together. We could have had, like we could have started like some kind of mutual fund, Dave, and I get all our friends to kick in $10,000 and bought that thing. Can we do that next time?
Yeah, we could. It's called illegal, I believe, by doing that. But yeah, sure, we can do it.
It's the man keeping me down. I know it.
Yeah, right. No, we'll start a perspective. What is it? Past performance does not, whatever, all that sort of stuff. Or, if it lasts over 4 hours, you have to call your doctor. I don't know, one of those things. Anyhow, a Maserati 3500 GT Coupe. Okay, are you ready now?
I think so.
Okay, it sold for $106,400. That's including the juice. The pre-sale estimate at Gooding was $225 to $275. I looked at this car. It was not a bad car. Our number one in the price guide is $268, really close to that Gooding number. Our number four, $166. This car sold for $60,000 below our number four condition. And this car was not a number four condition car. It was much nicer than that. So here's the bargain of the day at Gooding, I guess.
Well, I mean, it's one of two things, right? Either this was an incredible bargain or the value of these have changed and you simply got your values wrong.
Larry, I appreciate that. And let me get on the sofa here for a second. There's a sofa right here, so I'll go and say that my mommy didn't love me or something like that. No, you're wrong. Actually, no. This one I'm going to fight you.
Okay, yeah.
That's parts car price for this car.
Is that right?
It was a stone cold bargain. I'm trying not to use any expletives, so I'm just going to call it a stone cold bargain. I would have bought this car if I'd been in the room. I would have found the way to come up with $106,000, and I'm sure I could find that because I just go raid your IRA or your stock account or something like that.
What are those?
Anyway.
This is kind of interesting because it's 61. It's a Maserati, right? It was built in Italy. If it has a Ferrari badge, this car is worth 10, 20 times what this Maserati is, right?
Nah, not 10, 20 times. I mean, Maserati was a competitor. They were smaller then. They're smaller now. Of course, it's kind of now owned by the same people no matter what, or, has the same heritage, but not the same heritage back then. They were completely different cars. So, what can I say? This was one of those things that got out. And someday, look, okay, Larry, let me just go back. Let me just say this.
What?
If you have 5 auctions going on, if you were physically able to go to every one of them and you knew the values of cars, you could be guaranteed to make money. I don't care if the market's up, if the market's down. All you have to do is have that information that we try and give to you, through the insider, through the price guide, all that sort of stuff. And I can't be in every place at once, number one. And number two, Big Mama doesn't want me to buy any more cars. So. I kind of agree with her. So
what I love about this car, I mean, if we could scroll over to the engine bay, it has this metal turned aluminum strip around the whole of the bay, which looks like you're going to laugh, but this says to me, it says, 1977 Trans Am, but I think that look predated the Trans Am.
Oh, yeah. And it wasn't made out of plastic either. It was actually made out of metal. So, the engine turning stuff, that's all great. Now keep in mind, this is 61 3500 GT. So it's not the GTI, which was the little bit later car, the injected ones. With Maserati, there are no rules because back then they would pretty well make anything for anybody as long as they could, figure out a way to sell it. But a lot of people say, I don't want the injected one. Now, a lot of people now like the injected ones a little bit better than the carbureted ones, but I'll go either way.
Well, okay. On the other end of the spectrum, Dave, in my selfish interest, and we don't have the link for this, but there was a GT4, 308 GT4, which is, you know, that's the car that I bought for $25,000 and in the middle of restoration hell. Though one of that sold for $450,000. So
I think you're rich.
Feeling so flush right now.
Yeah, I think you're rich. I'm pretty sure, what's going to happen is you're going to be able to sell your car for pretty darn close to that kind of money. You're going to retire. You're going to be the happiest guy. You're going to get a place up, where would it be? Up somewhere in the Upper Peninsula, and we'll never hear from you again. Is that what happens?
Well, my kids are all thinking, holy smokes, now we get to go to college. This is awesome. You're not just wasting our money anymore.
You have told them of the values of the Michigan college system, and that state is a great school, as is the university, right?
Well, I think what this would be fun to speak to, because I hear you say this all the time, one sale does not make the market. So it's not time for me to celebrate, right? Am I right about this?
Absolutely. This one could have, and the colors on this one are great. Kind of with the metallic green with red leather. May I suggest you do your car in metallic green with red leather now? But
I could do that.
Yeah, you could.
Okay, so moving on, there was this weird pre-war Peugeot, and these cars, I know nothing about them, but something about this one, this 1911 type BP1, caught your eye. What was it?
Okay, pre-war as in pre-World War I, you mean, because it's 1911. Okay, now here is the deal. Who designed this car? This Peugeot type BP1, the baby Peugeot.
Mr. Peugeot?
No, Mr. Bugatti.
Get out.
This car is basically a baby Bugatti. This was one of Peugeot. It was a popular car for Peugeot. This was before Bugatti, took off by himself. This car at 5,000. Am I right on this? Let me just double check.
5,600. This was sold by Broad Arrow. Yeah,
5,600. Now, okay, let's talk about this sale. Where was the position on this car? It was the first car to be sold. I always look for bargains near the beginning. I always look for bargains near the end.
Oh.
This was a stone cold bargain, with the exception of, I'm going to have to say, the first time you do anything with this car, you're going to have to spend $100,000.
Yeah, this is going to cost you.
I think this one is the perfect restoration project for somebody who wants to learn about old cars, because there's a possible upside if you do it yourself. The build quality in 1911, not exactly like even 1931. I mean, things were pretty rudimentary back then, you could learn on this car. Somebody with the talent of Larry Webster could put this car back together and get it running. It's dirt simple. And, no, you don't have a $20,000 car when it's running. You might have a $100,000 car when this car is running. So who collects these? Bugatti collectors, because this is a car they can actually use.
If you're so enthusiastic about it, then you should have stepped up and bought it first off, Dave. I mean, first off.
I will say, had I been there, wishes and fishes, right? But had I been there, I would have bought it. You know why? I'm no good at restoring. But I am really good at donating. And this car would be a perfect donation to, say, a school in Kansas, maybe, that might like to learn about the really early cars.
That's a good idea. Look at
you. This car was definitely worth more than that. And, sometimes the first car sells cheap. Sometimes it doesn't. This just happened to be the first car, and it sold really cheap.
Wait, wishes and fishes. What the hell is that? I have no idea.
If wishes were fishes.
Fishes.
The sea is full of fishes, and they're the same as wishes. Until you own them, until you have them, it's just a sea full of things.
Oh,
okay. Maybe it's a little beyond you. I get it.
Yeah, I'm thicker than usual. I had a rough week of
we all
caviar
did.
And champagne. So
I'm just going to tell you this, and this is not a funny joke. There were 3 guys staying here at the house that we're renting. One of them is at the Doc in the Box right now. One of them is visiting his doctor right now. Both of them because of stress levels and because of walking so much that, their dogs are hurting so bad they went to see the doctor about it.
Stress? I mean, it's supposed to be fun. They're doing it wrong. I mean, get them on the phone. Are they on the phone?
Well, you'll notice that
I'm
not the one. I create stress levels for people. I don't have them myself.
That's right.
So.
Big Papa just holds court. That's exactly the way it is. I get it. Okay.
I just snorted.
I tell you, you highlighted this last one. It's sort of a car that's under the radar, but is super gorgeous and super cool. Tell us about it.
Well, if you are a person of a certain age, even somebody as young as you or even younger, you've probably seen the movie Herbie the Love Bug. Come on. How many times have you seen it? Couple?
That's classified.
Okay, so you showed it to your kids too, right? That was mandatory.
Yeah,
when
they were
2
bored.
years old.
I was like, "What? This is the funniest
mandatory.
movie ever." Yeah.
Well, who was the bad guy? Do you remember the name?
I don't remember his name, but he had that great mustache, right?
Thorndike. This is the Thorndike Special. This is the actual one of 2 cars that was used in filming the movie Herbie the Love Bug.
Yeah.
And this is an Apollo GT. It's a real live car. This is not, they called it the Thorndike Special. It's really an Apollo GT. This car sold for $165,700, which was pretty good, except for that's our number 3 price, and this was better than a number 3. Our number 2 price is $204,000, and that's without the history of being in Herbie the Love Bug.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I mean, the color's a little oddball because it was painted for the movie, and it's got the roundels on it and all that sort of stuff. A guaranteed smile on the face of people of a certain age at the very least. And I'm going to say this will last generations because this will keep your 2-year-old shut up for about 2 hours, right? If you let them watch Herbie the Love Bug, it's fascinating.
I mean, but this is one of those cars that's kind of forgotten in history because it was one of those really interesting hybrids from back then. It had an Italian body and it used that lightweight Buick V8 that was kind of on the radar, but didn't really get used as much as it probably should have. So consequently, these cars I don't know how many they sold total. It wasn't large. It was like under 20. So,
well, okay. So you look at your history book. There's a car called the Veta Ventura. There's a car called the Apollo, but it led into something called the Italia. Same person, Frank Reisner, involved in them. And so Frank Reisner, who, they had a business going in Canada until very, very recently, building inner Mechanica cars, all related in there. You're right. It's a footnote to history, but it's a Buick V8 footnote to history, and they're pretty fun cars to drive. They came in a convertible and a coupe. They came in a 2+2 as well. That was a really ambitious thing for the 60s. But, it's the Thorndike Special, dude. Come on.
I think you're right. I agree with you. This seems like a bargain. You get all the style. You get a really dirt reliable engine. It's not a fiberglass body. It's a steel body, so it's hand-formed. And, these things are trading for Corvette Z06 money. It's kind of amazing.
Yeah, you're right.
And then, okay, before we say goodbye, this car really was talk of the town. I think all week. And we spoke about it last week. It is just a hulk of twisted, burned, rusted metal that somebody claims was at some point a Ferrari. You know what I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. This was the car that people were talking about. It's not the 412P, which the car that everybody was thinking were the big thing, but this is a 500 Mondial. It's probably the most interesting sale because it is a pile of parts. Everything is missing instead of some things are missing. There's no taillights. There's no bumpers. There's no seats. There's no nothing. Just a big pile of fun stuff. And it sold for a lot of money.
Well, it was interesting because when we spoke about it a couple of weeks ago, this car, I would just love to attach myself to this carcass and see what happens next, because I don't even know like what metal you could salvage. And it's really going to test the theory that you can't destroy any car as long as you have the number plate.
Right.
And, one of the things I find so fascinating about this classic car market, and I asked a lot of people this, what I asked you, there's some handful of people, if this car gets restored, a handful of people will decree that it's a restoration of an actual car, or if they think it's a recreation, so it's fake. And I don't know where that's going to land, but that's going to determine everything. Yeah, you still agree with me here? You still with me?
Yeah, the car sold for $1,875,000, and I know that
$2 million.
hard to believe if you look at it, but it could be a $5 million car when it's restored. So do the math. I'm thinking that's $3 million and change is the difference. You can get the car restored pretty much any Ferrari shop. Let's just say that outside craziness, $1.5 million, $2 million, something along those lines. I don't know. But in the meantime, there's a lot of room in this car. So it is a serial number plate with a bunch of attached things to it, I guess is one way to look at it. But it's going to be so cool. It's going to be so cool to see this on the show field at Pebble Beach in maybe, 2026?
I don't know. It's such a dice roll. It really is. That's kind of what I love about it. But you also said that this may just be something somebody buys to put at the entrance to their collection.
Think about it. The big gates, you drive up the driveway for a mile after going through the big gates and giving them your security clearance and all that sort of stuff. And you get to this Ferrari collector's, kind of a, Dr. No kind of, James Bond type of character. And in the forecourt, surrounding the garages, is this big piece of metal sculpture. That's something else you could do to it too. I mean, nothing's gonna ruin it by leaving it outside for a few dozen years. Right?
I get it. Big Papa's got big vision.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, Dave, I hope we've given everybody a pretty good kind of lay of the land. If you like this podcast, please like it, subscribe, share it with your friends. If you are listening on your favorite podcast network, be it Spotify or Apple, and you're wondering, what do these cars look like? We also do a YouTube version that actually has all the photos of the car. That's at Hagerty's No Reserve on YouTube. So please check that out, share it, like it, comment, all that good stuff. Dave, as always, I learned a lot from you. It was fascinating running into you and what you and your people are looking at. And, I will never not be amazed being at Monterey and seeing the nuttiness of these cars. And I really love being around them. Anything you'd like to add before we say goodbye?
I was thinking about this. Everybody should come out here at least once. Woodward Dream Cruise, you should go to. Absolutely. But if you have the time or you have the coin to come out here, you can play at different levels. You can come out with a camper van if you want, something like that, and save quite a bit of money on lodging.
You could,
but you got to see it. The streets are wild and crazy with all kinds of cars that you've never ever seen before. I mean, a Pagani, drives by and everybody goes, "Oh, yeah, it's a Pagani."
There you
go. Whatever. Because there are so many unusual things out here every year in 1 week in August in Pebble Beach.
The great hack, by the way, I've done this twice. I didn't do it this year because I didn't need it, is if you can get yourself a little small gas-powered 50cc scooter, you are invincible. There is no traffic that will stop you. California allows you to split lanes when cars are stopped. Yep. So it gives you freedom of movement to get whatever you want, which is a big advantage in this thing. That would be my recommendation.
Mine would be to find a billionaire with a helicopter. That's a better hack.
That's how Big Papa rolls. I know. Lucky you. Well, thank you, Dave. It was great talking to you. And thanks, everybody, for listening to Hagerty's No Reserve.
Take care.